wanted to say that I'm so happy to be here with the two people that I love most, who I feel most loved by in all the world.
There's something uniquely unsettling about watching a friendship fall apart in slow motion. Not because of one explosive argument, not because of a sudden betrayal, but because of something darker. A secret, a crime, a moment that rewrites everything that came before it. And when I saw the first trailer for Imperfect Women, Apple TV's upcoming psychological mystery series, I immediately knew this wasn't just another prestige drama about complicated friendships. This feels like a slow burn unraveling where loyalty, guilt, love, and revenge collide in ways that won't leave anyone untouched. And yes, Elisabeth Moss is stepping into an entirely new lane. After 6 seasons as June Osborne in The Handmaid's Tale, a role that earned her multiple Emmy Awards and cemented her as one of television's most intense dramatic forces, Moss is now leading and executive producing Imperfect Women. But what caught my attention isn't just her presence. It's the dynamic triangle at the center of this story. Moss, Kerry Washington, Kate Mara, 3 actresses with serious dramatic credibility, 3 characters bound by decades of friendship, and one crime that fractures everything. Let's break this down carefully. Imperfect Women is adapted from Araminta Hall's 2020 novel of the same name. At its core, the series follows 3 longtime friends, Mary, Eleanor, and Nancy. They've shared years of memories, secrets, compromises, and emotional scars. But when a crime occurs and an investigation begins, their bond begins to splinter. The trailer opens with Nancy raising a glass to her 2 closest friends, describing them as the people she loves most in the world. It's warm, it's intimate, it feels genuine, and then the images start to contradict the words. As Nancy's heartfelt narration continues, we see flashes of forbidden romance, suppressed rage, tension that simmers beneath polite smiles. The editing is deliberate. The trailer wants you to question everything you're hearing. It wants you to feel the emotional gap between what these women say and what they actually experience. Then comes the turning point. Mary and Eleanor hear that a body has been discovered, and from that moment forward, the tone shifts completely. What I find fascinating is that Imperfect Women doesn't position itself as a traditional whodunit. This isn't just about identifying a killer, it's about examining what guilt does to people, what betrayal does to trust, what compromises do to identity. Apple describes the show as an unconventional thriller that explores guilt, revenge, love, betrayal, and the choices that irreversibly change our lives. And if you watch the trailer closely, you can see how those themes are layered visually. Close-ups that linger too long, silence that stretches uncomfortably, conversations that feel loaded with subtext. This is psychological territory, and if you followed Moss and Washington's previous work, you know both actresses thrive in emotionally complex adaptations. Moss found enormous success with The Handmaid's Tale. Washington led the powerful adaptation of Little Fires Everywhere. Both series demonstrated how well literary material can translate into gripping television when anchored by strong performances. That's why comparisons to Big Little Lies feel inevitable. A group of women, a crime, a secret, a community that starts to crack under pressure. But Imperfect Women seems to lean less into glossy coastal drama and more into psychological dissection. And that's where it becomes interesting. Annie Weisman created the adaptation and serves as showrunner. If her name sounds familiar, it should. She previously led Apple TV's Physical, starring Rose Byrne, and Peacock's Based on a True Story with Kaylee Cuoco. Weisman has experience blending tone, weaving dark humor into emotional intensity. That could be crucial here. She also executive produces alongside Araminta Hall, Elisabeth Moss, Kerry Washington, Lindsay McManus, Kay Eugen, and Leslie Linka Glatter. Eugen serves as a writer, while Glatter directs episodes 1, 4, and 5. That creative team suggests a cohesive vision rather than a scattered adaptation. Now let's talk about the cast around the trio, because this ensemble is stacked. Joel Kinnaman, Corey Stoll, Leslie Odom JRB, Audrey Zahn, Jill Wagner, Rome Flynn, Cheryl Lee Ralph, Violette Linz, Indiana L., Jackson Kelly, Keith Carradine, Anna Ortiz, and Wilson Bethel all appear in supporting roles. That's not filler casting, that's depth. And here's where I want to slow down for a moment. What makes a show about friendship truly compelling isn't just the betrayal, it's the history. It's the shared experiences that make separation painful. It's the knowledge that you once trusted someone completely. The trailer emphasizes that long-term connection, decades of shared life, and that's why the crime hits so hard. It's not an isolated event. It's a fracture line running through years of intimacy. If the writing commits to that emotional layering, this series could be devastating in the best possible way. The release strategy is also worth noting. Imperfect Women premieres March 18th on Apple TV with a 2-episode launch. After that, it shifts to weekly releases every Wednesday until April 29th. 8 episodes total. That weekly structure suggests confidence. It invites discussion. It encourages viewers to speculate, debate, and analyze between installments. And if this show leans into ambiguity, that format could amplify engagement. Let me ask you something. When you watch a story about fractured friendship, what draws you in more, the mystery of what happened or the slow revelation of who these people truly are? Because Imperfect Women looks like it's betting on the latter. The trailer's tone isn't frantic. It's deliberate. It lingers on expressions. It shows moments of silence that feel heavy. It implies that the most devastating truths aren't shouted. They're whispered. And Moss stepping into this role post-Handmaid's Tale feels significant. That show was dystopian, political, externalized oppression. Imperfect Women appears more intimate, more internal, less about a regime and more about personal accountability. Kerry Washington, meanwhile, continues to build a slate of projects that lean into layered storytelling. She has Shadow Force and Wake Up Dead Man, a Knives Out mystery on her 2025 calendar. That kind of range positions her well for a thriller that requires emotional nuance. Kate Mara adds another interesting dynamic. With recent work in A 24's Friendship and Prime Video's Invincible, she's comfortable in character-driven narratives that sit between genre and drama. Together, these three form a triangle that feels intentionally imperfect. No one appears purely innocent. No one appears purely villainous. And that ambiguity is key. If the investigation reveals that even the closest friendships hide compromise and resentment, the show could explore a question that feels deeply human. How well do we really know the people we love? The Apple synopsis states that as the investigation unfolds, the truth emerges that even the closest bonds may not be what they seem. That line alone hints that the crime is a catalyst, not the centerpiece. The centerpiece is exposure. Exposure of past choices, of buried jealousy, of love that wasn't entirely selfless, of revenge that may not be justified. And if the series handles that complexity carefully, it could become one of Apple TV's strongest psychological offerings this year. Now, from a prestige TV standpoint, Apple has been quietly building a strong library of character-driven dramas. Physical, For All Mankind, and other original projects have shown the platform isn't afraid to invest in emotionally complex storytelling. Imperfect Women fits that strategy perfectly. It's literary, it's female-led, it's morally ambiguous, it's built for conversation, and that's where you come in. Do you think this has the potential to match the cultural impact of Big Little Lies? Or does it feel more intimate, more character-focused, less spectacle-driven? Drop your thoughts below because I genuinely think this show is going to spark debate once those first 2 episodes hit. The final thing that stands out to me is the title itself. Imperfect Women. Not broken women. Not dangerous women. Imperfect. That word suggests relatability. It suggests flaws rather than evil. It suggests that whatever happened, whatever crime shattered this friendship, the damage wasn't created in a vacuum. It was built over time. And if that's the direction the show takes, we could be looking at a series that resonates long after the mystery is solved. Imperfect Women premieres March 18th on Apple TV with a 2-episode launch, followed by weekly episodes through April 29th. If you're drawn to psychological thrillers rooted in relationships rather than shock value, this one deserves your attention. I'll be watching closely to see whether the show prioritizes suspense, character study, or a careful blend of both. Because the most compelling mysteries aren't always about who committed the crime. Sometimes they're about who we become when everything falls apart. This is Screen Radar, and I'll see you in the next breakdown.